Hey guys, um, we're just gonna get right back into The Hobbit. I'm gonna start back about a sentence or two. That way, you guys can catch up and remember. But yeah, let's go. It may have been secret once, said Thorin, but how do we know it was secret any longer? Old Smaug has lived there long enough to find out any secret there was to know about those caves. He may, but he can't have used it for years and years. Why? Because it is too small. 5 feet high the door, and 3 may walk abreast, say the runes. But Smaug could not creep into a hole that size, not even when he was a young dragon. Certainly not after devouring so many of the dwarves and men of Dale. It seems a great big hole to me, squeaked Bilbo, who had no experience of dragons and only of hobbit holes. He was getting excited and interested again, so that he forgot to keep his mouth shut. He loved maps, and in his hall there hung a large one of the country round, with all of his favorite walks marked out in red ink. How could such a large door be kept secret from anybody outside, apart from the dragon? He asked. He was only a little hobbit, you must remember. In lots of ways, said Gandalf, but in what way this one has been hidden we don't know without going to see. From what it says on the map, I should guess there is a closed door which has been made to look exactly like the side of the mountain. It is the usual dwarves' method. I think it is, isn't it? Quite right, said Thorin. Also, went on Gandalf, I forgot to mention that with the map went a key, a small and curious key. Here it is, and handed the key to Thorin. It had a long barrel and intricate wards made of silver. Keep it safe. Indeed I will, said Thorin. And he fastened it upon a fine chain that hung about his neck and under his jacket. Now things begin to look more hopeful. This news alters them much for better. So far, we've had no clear idea what to do. We thought about going east, as quiet and careful as we could, as far as the Long Lake. After that, the trouble would begin. A long time before that, if I know anything about the roads east, interrupted Gandalf. We might go up from there, along the river running, went on Thorin, taking no notice, and so to the ruins of Dale, the old town in the valley there, under the shadow of the mountain. But we none of us like the idea of the front gate. The river runs right out through the great cliff at the south of the mountain. Out of it comes the dragon, too. Far too often, unless he has changed his habits. That would be no good, said the wizard. Not without a mighty warrior, even a hero. I tried to find one, but warriors are busy fighting one another in distant lands, and in this neighborhood, heroes are scarce. Excuse me? Or simply not to be found. Swords in these parts are mostly blunt, and the axes are used for trees and shields as cradles or dish covers. And dragons are comfortably far off, and therefore legendary. That is why I settled on burglary, especially when I remembered the existence of a side door. And here is our little Bilbo Baggins, the burglar, the chosen and selected burglar. So now, let's get on and make some plans. Very well then, said Thorin. Supposing the burglar expert gives us ideas or suggestions, he turned with mock politeness to Bilbo. First, I should like to know a bit more about things, said he, feeling all confused and a bit shaky inside, but so far, still tookishly determined to go on with things. I mean about the gold and the dragon and all that, and how it got there and who it belongs to, and so on and farther. Bless me, said Thorin, haven't you got the map? And didn't you hear our song, and haven't we been talking about all of this for hours? All the same, I should like it all plain and clear, he said, obstinately putting on his business manner that was usually reserved for people who try to borrow money off of him, and doing his best to appear wise and prudent and professional and live up to Gandalf's recommendation. Also, I should like to know about risks, out-of-pocket expenses, time required, remuneration, and so forth, by which he meant, what am I going to get out of it, and am I going to come back alive? Oh, very well, said Thorin. Long ago, in my grandfather Thror's time, our family was driven out of the far north, and came back with all their wealth and tools to the mountain on the map. It had been discovered by my far ancestor Thrain the Old. Now they mined, and they tunneled, and they made huger halls and greater workshops. And in addition, I believe they found a good deal of gold and a great many jewels too. Anyway, they grew immensely rich and famous, and my grandfather was king under the mountain again, and treated with great reverence by mortal men, who lived to the south and were gradually spreading up the running river, as far as the valley overshadowed by the mountain. They built the merry town of Dale there in those days. Kings used to send for our smiths and reward even the least skillful most richly. Fathers would beg us to take their sons as apprentices and pay us handsomely, especially in food and supplies, which we never bothered to grow or find for ourselves. Altogether, those were good days for us, and the poorest of us had money to spend and to lend and leisure to make beautiful things just for the fun of it. not to speak of the most marvelous and magical toys, the like of which is not to be found in the world nowadays. So my grandfather's halls became full of armor and jewels and carvings and cups, and the toy market of Dale was the wonder of the North. Perfect. Undoubtedly, I just saw something you'll like. Undoubtedly, that was what brought the dragon. Dragons steal gold and jewels, from men and elves and dwarves, wherever they can find them, and they guard their plunder as long as they live, which is practically forever unless they are killed. Never enjoy a brass ring of it. Indeed, they hardly know a good bit of work from a bad, though they usually have a good notion of the current market value, and they can't make a thing for themselves, not even mend a little loose scale of their armor. There were lots of dragons in the north in those days, and gold was probably getting scarce up there, with the dwarves flying south or getting killed, and all the general waste and destruction that the dragons make going from bad to worse. There was the most specially greedy, strong, and wicked worm called Smaug. One day, he flew up into the air and came south. The first we heard of it, it was like a noise like a hurricane coming through the north, and the pine trees on the mountain creaking and cracking in the wind. Some of the dwarves who happened to be outside, I was one luckily, a fine adventurous lad in those days, always wandering about, and it saved my life that day. Well, from a good way off, we saw the dragon settle on our mountain in a spout of flame. Then he came down the slopes, and when he reached the woods, they all went up in fire. By that time, all the bells were ringing in Dale, and the warriors were arming. The dwarves rushed out of the great gate, but there was a dragon waiting for them. None escaped that way. The river rushed up in a steam, and fog fell on Dale. In the fog, the dragon came on them and destroyed most of the warriors. The usual unhappy story. It was only too common in those days. Then he went back and crept in through the front gate and routed all the halls and lanes and tunnels, alleys, cellars, mansions, and passages. After that, there were no more dwarves left alive inside. And look at this. That is the hill. So this would be Bilbo's house right there. That's the hill, and here it would be Hobbiton, or where the hobbits live, right there. And then I believe this would be either stores or maybe even, yeah, looks like stores because they have buildings for that, but their houses would be up here. Okay, let's get going. And he took all of their wealth for himself. Probably, for that is the dragon's way. He has piled it all up in a great, hold on. Oh, okay. He has piled it all up in a great heap far inside and sleeps on it for a bed. Later, he used to crawl out of the great gate and come by night to Dale and carry away people, especially maidens, to eat, until Dale was ruined. All the people dead or gone. What goes on there now, I don't know for certain, but I don't suppose anyone lives nearer to the mountain than the far edge of the long lake nowadays. The few of us that were well inside sat and wept in hiding and cursed Smaug. And there we were, unexpectedly joined by my father and my grandfather, with singed beards. They looked very grim, but they said very little. When I asked how they had got away, they told me to hold my tongue and said that one day in the proper time I should know. After that, we went away, and we have had to earn our livings as best we could, up and down the lands, often enough sinking as low as blacksmith work, or even coal mining. But we have never forgotten our stolen treasure, and even now, when I will allow we have a good bit laid by and are not so badly off, here Thorn stroked the gold chain around his neck. We still mean to get it back and to bring our curses home to Smaug if we can. Okay, I'm gonna stop there. So now the adventure's kind of picking up. They're getting ready. They're giving us all this information that we need about Smaug and how they're gonna prepare to tackle taking back the mountain. From here, it'll only go upward, and I'm really excited to share this adventure with you guys. I miss you guys a bunch, and please stay safe out there. Make sure you guys are social distancing. Wear your masks if you're gonna be outside. Wear gloves. Try not to, you know, be too close to people. But yeah, I know it's a difficult time, but that's why we're here in the Zoom meetings and the hangouts and even these videos. They're for you guys because we haven't forgot about you, and yeah, can't wait to see you guys when school starts up again. Bye bye.